South China Morning Post, 17th of November 2022. Will India's high-tech joint venture initiative, which is intended as an outreach to East Asia, succeed? Despite all defensive efforts against China, India has been able to destroy its electronic industry despite defending its market against Chinese dumping. India has now agreed to permit domestic electronic production. Indian government officials told Economic Times this month that the nation was prepared to accept proposals for high-tech electronic joint ventures from not only mainland China but also South Korea, Taiwan, Vietnam, and European countries after years of being accused of protectionism and being wary of Chinese investments. Hopefully, this will support the expansion of electronic manufacturing in India. While businesses like Xiaomi, OnePlus, Apple, and Oppo have made investments in India, most of them have been made through their contract manufacturers, which outsource the production process to Indian businesses. Given China's dominance in Indian electronics, the concept is far more appropriate to China, but there are restrictions. Foreign companies cannot establish themselves independently. They need to work with an Indian partner who will own the bulk of the company and run the board. Industry sources claim that this policy reversal is not unexpected, even in light of the border clashes between China and India. One is the rise in India's reliance on Chinese commodities during the past year. There are no signs that China's stranglehold on India's electronic industry will loosen. For the fiscal year that concluded on March 31, 2020, China accounted for 45% of India's imports of electronic components for cell phones. According to the UN Comtrade database, India imported electrical and electronic components from China worth $26.39 billion last year, up from less than $18 billion the year before. One significant factor is cost. Importing parts from China is at least 30% less expensive than purchasing them from any other worldwide competitor. To charge China for its occupancy of Akshay Chin, India can implement the COTS Chinese occupation tax. India's growing reliance on its neighbor to power its electronics industry frequently contradicts its concerns about online threats. In June 2020, India banned 59 Chinese apps, including TikTok, due to privacy and data collecting problems. Battle Royale-style games are among the more than 220 Chinese apps currently prohibited. The government apparently considered legislation last year that would have required specific handsets to undergo extensive testing before being sold in order to safeguard data security. This action was purportedly aimed at Chinese devices. Chinese mobile phones continue to dominate the market in India despite increased scrutiny because of their low prices. India's joint venture proposal is quite an outreach after all the political unrest. It was estimated to be worth around $75 billion last year and is anticipated to increase by 6 to 7% yearly for the next 6 years. The introduction of 5G last month, primarily viewed as a game-changer for technology-led businesses, has increased its worth. It is anticipated to boost Prime Minister Narendra Modi's highly ambitious aim to make India a $5 trillion economy by 2025 by assisting the electronic and tech sectors in increasing India's gross domestic product by as much as $3 trillion 2033. The draw of 5G in India for Chinese IT giants is the nation's enormous and expanding user base. By the end of this year, it is anticipated that all of India will have access to 5G, which may result in an additional 20 million device sales in a market that is currently two-thirds dominated by Chinese firms. Chinese smartphone models already on the market have an advantage as many are 5G ready. However, China has also been excluded from India's 5G network building. India has joined other nations in forbidding or avoiding the use of equipment made by Chinese telecoms giants such as Huawei Technologies Company and ZTE Corporation. These nations include the United States, Britain, Australia, and Belgium. The West has been increasingly cracking down on what it perceives as data theft and surveillance from Chinese telecom companies. While India has not outright banned Huawei or ZTE, restrictive policy measures have made it very difficult for Indian telecom companies to cooperate with these companies for any network-related needs. As a result, India's two companies' headcount has decreased by 90% during the past 2 years. India's decision to invite international companies to manufacture there follows a string of successes and failures. India launched a staged manufacturing initiative in 2017 to revive its electronics industry, notably its mobile manufacturing, to create what the authorities felt would be a strong, indigenous manufacturing ecosystem. Under this program, duty was gradually added to imports of electronic components, primarily from China, raising the price of these components, which were necessary for the production of mobile phones. However, the approach was criticized for flaws and ultimately failed to support local manufacturing as the authorities had planned. Instead, the industry faced severe semiconductor shortages due to the COVID-19 epidemic, which increased demand for imported electrical components. High import taxes just increased the cost and decreased the competitiveness of the completed goods. The government wants to increase Indian exports, enabling foreign IT companies to collaborate and invest directly in production. Whether it is to support India's electronic manufacturing sector or to give more security to Chinese enterprises who see long-term promise in India despite the country's recent spectacular ups and downs, it remains to be seen whether such collaboration can suit everyone's needs.